There are some places you hear about in ghost stories, the ones people warn you never to visit. The Carter House in Raven Creek was one of them. Abandoned for nearly a century, they said it was cursed. People who went near it vanished without a trace. Locals swore they saw ghostly children in the windows and heard their laughter echoing through the trees. No one dared go inside. Until we did. I'm Ryan Walker, lead investigator of the Hollow Vale Paranormal team. With me were Claire Matthews, our tech expert, Ethan Cole, the historian who always dug too deep, and Logan Reed, the man you wanted beside you when things got dangerous. We'd explored haunted asylums, abandoned prisons, and ancient battlefields, but nothing prepared us for what we found in Raven Creek. At first, it seemed like every other case. Cold spots, faint whispers, flickering lights. But then, we dug deeper. In the basement, we found the box, buried beneath the dirt floor, old, rotten, locked, and when we opened it, we unleashed something that wasn't meant to be freed. After that, the hauntings turned violent. Shadows moved on their own. Doors slammed shut behind us. Our equipment failed. We woke up with scratches on our skin and whispers in our ears. But the worst part? It followed us home. This isn't just another ghost story. This is the case that nearly destroyed us. The one that made us question everything we knew about the paranormal and about ourselves. And if you're listening, just know this: some spirits never rest, and some doors should never be opened. Jagged silhouette stood against the overcast sky, twisted and fractured by time. The windows were boarded up haphazardly, though a few had been smashed. Open, leaving jagged shards of glass like broken teeth. The mansion had been abandoned for over 70 years, ever since the Carter family vanished without a trace. Locals still whispered about strange lights in the windows and voices echoing from the empty halls. I parked the van by the cracked stone fence. The headlights cut through the mist, briefly illuminating the weathered "private property, no trespassing" sign half buried in weeds. I glanced at my team. Logan Wells, our tech specialist, was already unloading the gear. Thermal cameras, EMF detectors, and motion sensors. His eyes were sharp, analytical, and always calculating. Claire Bennett, the skeptic of the group, leaned against the van, arms crossed. Her blonde hair was pulled back into a tight ponytail, and her expression made it clear she didn't buy into the whole ghost thing. Ryan Carter, the historian and the muscle of the group, pulled out a folder with old newspaper clippings. He was the only one who'd done field research on this place. The Carter family, the last known residents, were distantly related to him. His reason for being here was personal. I exhaled slowly. My hands were steady, but my gut felt tight. I'd done dozens of these investigations, but this place felt off. "Let's get this over with," Claire muttered, rubbing her arms against the chill. We entered the manor, and the door creaked open with a reluctant groan. The air inside was stale, thick with a scent of decaying wood and mildew. The entryway was massive, high ceilings, cracked marble tiles, and a grand staircase that once must have been magnificent. Now the banister was warped and splintered. Logan knelt by the entrance, setting up the EMF detector. The screen flickered, but held steady. No unusual readings. We moved deeper into the house. The hallways were lined with portraits of the Carter family, their eyes dull and vacant. The faded wallpaper peeled at the edges, as if the house itself were rotting from the inside out. "This place is dead," Claire muttered. "Nothing here but mold and bad plumbing." As if in response, a faint creaking echoed from the second floor. We all froze. I exchanged glances with Ryan, who gave me a slow nod. "Probably just the house settling," Logan said, though his voice was unusually low. We pressed on, reaching the parlor. The fireplace was blackened with soot, long abandoned. Ryan pulled out an old cracked photo of the Carter family. They stared out from the frame with unsettling blank expressions. Suddenly, the EMF detector spiked. Logan's eyes narrowed. "We've got movement," he muttered. The temperature dropped noticeably. My breath came out in faint wisps of vapor. Claire frowned, now visibly uncomfortable. From the corner of the room came a faint whisper, indistinct but unmistakable. "Did you hear that?" Ryan whispered, his voice tight. I turned, scanning the room. Nothing, just shadows. Then, as I took a step forward, the floorboard creaked unnaturally loud, as if something had shifted beneath it. I knelt and shone my flashlight between the cracks. The beam caught something metallic, an old lockbox partially buried beneath the rotting floorboards. Ryan crouched beside me, his voice barely above a whisper. "What the hell is that?" Before I could answer, the door to the parlor slammed shut, hard enough to rattle the windows. Claire yelped, and Logan spun around, the thermal camera shaking slightly in his hands. The EMF detector shrieked with activity. My pulse pounded in my ears. I stepped back, gripping the edge of the fireplace mantel for support. And then we heard it, the faint sound of footsteps above us, deliberate and heavy, despite the fact that the second floor had been sealed off for decades. No one supposed. "Try to be up there," Logan whispered. Claire's eyes were wide now, her skepticism crumbling. I clicked on the two-way radio clipped to my vest. "We've got movement on the second floor," I whispered. "Stay sharp." We exchanged brief, tense glances before moving toward the grand staircase. My hand tightened around the flashlight, knuckles white. I took the first step, the old wood creaking beneath my weight. But just as I reached the landing, the footsteps suddenly stopped. Everything went disturbingly still. No breathing, no wind, nothing. Just silence. And then from the far end of the hallway we heard it, a faint, childlike laughter. We all froze. Claire's hand trembled slightly on her flashlight. Logan muttered under his breath, "Jesus Christ." The light flickered in the hallway, and in that brief moment of darkness, I caught a glimpse of something at the far end of the corridor, a pale, skeletal figure with hollow black eyes, standing perfectly still. When the light flickered back on, it was gone. Claire's voice shook. Did you see that?" None of us answered. We just stared into the empty hallway, the faint echo of the laughter still ringing in our ears.